CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. Is it really now about pushing the big lie? Let's bring in the organizer, Matt Schlapp. Good to have him on primetime. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Chris.
So, Matt, we've talked about this before, but I didn't expect it to be this big at CPAC. What is the thinking on going so strong at the idea that the election was a fraud? I mean, not even your own elected officials in Congress agree with you.
Well, Chris, I think it's very clear that in the states I was in after the election, including the state of Nevada and the state of Georgia, they did not check the signatures on mailed-in ballots, contrary to the law, and that should never happen in this country again. Matter of fact, they saw some wrongdoing in New York City in their elections as well. And there's fraud in every election since the beginning of time, including in America. And we ought to all agree, Democrats and Republicans, that nobody should vote who's not legally allowed to vote. And unfortunately, in the last presidential election, because they didn't check those signatures, we had massive amounts of fraud. These are facts, and they're undisputable.
No, it is not a fact that there were large amounts of fraud. You had me right up until there. You've got people chanting.
Did they check the signatures? Did they check? But let me just push back on this. Did they check the signatures on mailed-in ballots in the state of Georgia, which the Secretary of State said he would not check those and verify those signatures? And did they check the signatures in Clark County, the largest county in Nevada? Did they check them? They did not, and contrary to the law in Nevada. Now, you can say it wasn't enough votes to change the outcome, but you can't say I'm not wrong.
Hold on. Here's how you are wrong. And I think you know this. My real question is going to come next, which is why you're doing this. But just to engage in this little bit of palaver for a second.
Why am I on your show? Because you asked me, and I'm happy to be on.
Appreciate it. I invited you because you're very relevant on the right side of the aisle. CPAC used to be the place where you would see where the head and the heart of the party were. And I can't believe they're going to be wrapped around a lie. To say there was fraud doesn't mean, even if you were right, okay, on your own assertion, you didn't check all the boxes of what you were supposed to do. I'm not saying you're right, and no court has said you were right, and all of the suggestions that you would prove this over time. I don't understand why you are banking your conservative platform on this. You really believe that the way to win the midterms and maybe the next presidency is by trying to create misgivings about the democracy?
No, I'm not.
That's all you're talking
I'm just
about.
answering your questions, Chris. Now you asked all the questions. Now let's stop. What is CPAC about this year? It's about uncanceling America. It's about opening up schools. It's about opening up churches. It's about telling the federal government you don't have the right to intervene on these questions. It's about on social media, conservative voices should be accepted just as liberal voices are accepted. We have a national media that treats conservatives with disdain, but social media platforms that had this idea that all of us would have a voice, we should have that voice.
You don't have a voice on social media?
You can talk about this election, Chris, you can talk about this election all you want, and you're on unsolid ground. I'll answer any question you have.
Unsolid ground. You don't have a single decision. You don't have a single state official on your side, and they're from your party. Look, let's put that to the side, okay? Just put it to the side. Do yourself a favor.
I respect
what I'm saying
you, but you are so wrong. You have not won on one substantive case. Give me a substantive
You never get to substance.
As to why it was okay
you never get to a
check
substantive case because you never
mailed-in ballots.
Hold on, Matt. You guys never. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Get out of my ear. You guys never get to the point of having any type of judge get to review it because there is never the basis for a claim upon which they can make a determination. And you guys have used this to your advantage.
Chris,
I'm asking a different
let me
question.
talk just for a minute, okay? Because it's your show.
You've been talking a lot, Matt, to be honest.
Let me just talk for
but go ahead.
Well, that's what being a guest is. You get to talk. But my only point is this,
Two people talking to conversation.
You guys,
go ahead.
Fair enough, and I respect the fact that you have me on, but my point to you is the following, which is don't act like there's not a legitimate claim when you have an election that's one we've never had before with all these mailed-in ballots. Don't act like it's outrageous for Republicans and conservatives and people who like Trump to be really question this case of why didn't we vote the same way we voted in 2016, where everyone who voted by mail, you had to verify that you were a legal voter.
Matt, I'm
in
just telling you, I hear your point. You've made it a lot of times
in these cities.
Here's the problem.
But we should do that. Do you agree? We should do that.
Of course, you should follow the rules.
Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union, joins us now.
We had more illegal ballots in the last election than we've ever had in our history because we stopped checking signatures on mailed-in ballots in our major cities, and I was in Nevada and in Georgia, and that we should never vote that way again. We should all agree that we should have to follow the laws. Both of those states contravened the laws by not checking those ballots. And in New York City, they had over 100,000 ballots that mysteriously got into the count. Now, they found out about those ballots, but you can't both say illegal voting doesn't really happen to a large extent and then have over 100,000 illegal ballots be in the count in New York City.
Not enough, but Matt, not enough to tip a presidential election.
Eric, how many illegal... I would like to ask you this question because you seem to know so much. How many illegal ballots were in the count in 2020? I'll wait for your answer.
I don't have that answer off the top of my head.
How do you know what the impact would be on those illegal ballots? I'll wait for your answer.
Because election officials across the country have said that there was no massive fraud that would have changed the result of the election.
That is untrue, Eric. Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, didn't check those signatures in violation of the law. Now, you can say that Brad Raffensperger thinks that was fine, but it was illegal. And I'm not about relitigating 2020. I'm just saying as we go into these midterms and into another presidential election, I have a very simple idea. Follow the election laws for Democrat voters and for Republican voters. If we're going to do more mail-in ballots, we have to make sure you're legally on the list and that you have to verify that you're on that list through your signature. I think it's a very American idea. If we don't do that, Eric, we'll have chaos in our election system. People won't agree that the elections are sound, and our nation will further split apart. What I'm saying is a very, very common sense thing.
I get cut off by the computer. I'd like to continue this with you at another time,
I'd love
Matt.
to continue it because I think people need to know the facts. We've got to stop just reclaiming things that aren't true. They didn't check signatures on ballots. Can't do that anymore. We don't know how big it was, but it was big enough to make a big impact in these important states, which were decided by thousands of votes.
10 seconds. We'll see what the election officials say if indeed they find the fraud that is alleged to have happened.
They have already found a lot of fraud. They've
down in
already found
Dallas.
a lot.
Thank you.